Coach Dave's Academy. This little booklet, which I'm going to do in video format, is simply a way to improve your practice sessions so that you can not only increase and improve your swings results, but also practice with a purpose and get some solid results. The clinics that I do are a little different. Everyone swings, no one sits. You get to practice, you get to work, and I'm going to try to do is create the sense that I'm going to be there with you in the little booklet, and when you take the video you can see that it's going to be like I'm there when you're working on your swing. We're going to talk about the 5-ball 30 swing improvement process. Simply that means you're going to set 5 balls aside. Before you hit the ball, you're going to take 5 solid, purposeful practice swings that'll help you generate the kind of results that you're looking for. In other words, the practice swing has to be the swing that you intend to use when you hit the ball. Now, before you do this process, make sure that you have a consistent rhythm and tempo. Time it somehow, get somebody to watch it. It makes perfectly good sense to work on your swing, but it makes no sense at all to work on your swing when your rhythm and tempo's off. Imagine a really good car engine with bad timing. Before you use this process, verify that your basic mechanics and setup are correct. Use alignment sticks, begin with a 7-iron, it's easy to hit, and it's okay to have the ball on the tee. Also, it's important that your clubs are properly fitted to you. We're all different. You wouldn't want to wear a pair of shoes that don't fit. Always use a qualified observer or a video camera so you can look back at your swings and see, did you actually accomplish the movement you're trying to make. And again, use those perfectly, purposefully executed practice swings before each actual swings. You got to do this in order to the first 2 steps, or you're going to do it throughout the entire club set. There's no shortcuts. We're not looking for perfect, we're looking for playable. So take your time and do this right. It may take several weeks before you actually get it done. So the first thing we're going to look at is, are we making solid contact when we hit the ball? Are we hitting the sweet spot? If you hit the sweet spot, great. You get to go right on to step 2 with the same club. If you're not hitting the sweet spots, well, you got to find out. Are you hitting it fat, thin, out on the heel, or up on the toe? You're going to do everything until you bring it back to the sweet spot. So you can see here, this directs you to go to which page in the presentation to work on it. Now, if you got a problem, like we're seeing here on these samples here to the right, if you are scattering your impact, you're not able to hit it consistent, you got to start over. There's no point in trying to improve something when you don't have anything to improve that's specific. The one with the wood, you can see that there's only one shot that's really offline. On the paper one, you can see there's all kinds of them all over the place. So try to be as consistent as you possibly can. So if you had a high impact, maybe it's up too high, too far back, your angle's too steep. What I mean by that is that you're not coming in with the club lagging behind, but you're chopping down on the ball. You may have rotated your club face too closed. You may be swaying forward or staying on the back foot. What you want to do is pick the one here that feels right to you. Which one are you going to try? Then you're going to use the 5-ball process on that specific effort. In other words, if you think the ball is too far back, you're going to move it 1 inch forward at a time and use the 5-ball, 5-swing process to find out if that works. If it does, you get to move on to the next one. If it doesn't, try to find something else. You always want to look for the thing that's going to work for you. It's not the same for everybody, but hopefully you'll find the one that works for you. Now, if we're hitting it a little low, we're early releasing the hinges. In other words, when you create angles with your elbow, your hinges, and your shoulders, if you release those too early, you're going to hit the ball fat. You're going to hit the ground first. Maybe the ball is so far forward you can't get to the ball. Your lead wrist could be cupped, or what we call flipping. Your arms are pulling in or up on you, so you're slapping at the ball. And the lead elbow could be pointing up instead of down. Take a look at the picture to the right. You can see a fella using the impact bag to help him out. What he's trying to do here is move into a good solid position and making good solid impact with a nice flat left side and leading with the hands. Now, once again, you make one change, on one change only, the one that seems to make sense for you. Maybe you're looking at your video or using your observer to tell you that you're flipping the club or the ball seems to be too far forward. Make the one change, do the 5-ball, 5-swing routine. If that works, great, you can move on. If it doesn't work, try something else. What you want to do is you want to get consistent impact. If you can't hit the ball solid, the rest of it doesn't really matter. Now, if you're catching it on the heel, that means you're hitting it way in by the hosel. You got to make some changes. There's no point in trying to beat yourself up, trying to work through and move things around, and trying 100 different things, hoping one of them will work. So what you want to do is take a look. Maybe I'm over rotating the club on my backswing. Maybe my left hand grip isn't strong enough. Maybe I'm coming over the top and leading with the hosel, bringing the hosel to the ball maybe I'm standing too close. My spine angle, I could be bent over too much. I could be standing too tall. So you want to try to find the one that works for you. Look at your booklet. Look at the video that you shot. Try to determine. Now, if you have difficulty, send me the video. I'll tell you what's going on, and we'll do it that way. Or come out to one of the clinics. The opposite is the toe impact. You're hitting the ball way down the toe. Make sure your hands are at the right angle to the golf shaft, 144 degrees. Use the Tour Angle 144 training aid that you see pictures of here. Make the changes that you're seeing here on the sheet. Make them, and again, use the 5-ball process. There are no shortcuts. You can't just hit 1 or 2 balls and say, I've got it. You want to ingrain it, hit lots of balls, make it work for you. Now, if you got scattered results, you can't be successful. Start over. Swing slower, swing shorter. And if you've been here before, you keep coming back to this scattered results page, then my thinking is that you need to get some qualified instruction and you get club fitting. Make sure your clubs are fitted correctly. Okay, you're hitting the ball well, solidly. Now can you put it where you want it to go? Golf is a game of connect the dots from A to B. Direction is not only getting the ball on a straight line, it is learning to move the ball right to left, left to right, and high and low. You need to move it around trees, you need to curve it over bunkers. You're going to take some time and learn what your tendencies are first. Do you have a tendency to fade the ball? Do you have a tendency to draw the ball? Are you a slicer? Are you a hooker? Find out what that is first. You can actually play golf with a tendency that's not perfect. If the tendency is always hooking the ball, you play the hook. You can still get from A to B. It may not be as pretty as your friends, but you can do it. We're going to use observation to note ball flight, and again, we're going to use the 5-ball, 30-swing process. First thing you're going to do is take 5 balls, hit them to a target. What are your tendencies? Jot them down. Your tendencies are the draw? Wonderful. But no matter what they are, be honest with yourself. Use your alignment stick so you know you're lined up correctly, and then just track your ball flight. See what's happening. And now the pull hook, that's the ball that starts left and goes left, and when it lands on the ground, it usually goes looking for water, just like the big slice does. What you're going to do is you're going to look at one of the things that we've denoted here on the left. You've got your booklet with you. You're going to take some time and try to find out which one of these things is going to help you move the ball in the direction you want it to go. If you're striving to hit the ball straight, you need to have the club face square to the target and the path square to the club face when you hit it. Anything different than that is going to cause the ball to move. The path creates the curve, the face of the club creates the initial direction. So make sure that you understand the process as you start working through changing the pull hook into a draw, maybe into just a regular hook, or maybe even a straight shot. The pole slice is the ball going to the left and then curves violently to the right. Remember, the curve is going to be in the opposite direction the club was moving. The initial direction is the way the club was facing, so obviously the face of the club was pointing left. The path of the club was also going left, so the ball will curve to the right. Generally, that's swinging over the top. This should be very easy to look at in your video. Watch the club path. Use something like Coach's Eye or V1 on your phone, so you can take and slow down and see what your body's doing. And then pick the one thing you're going to try to fix. Don't try to fix them all. You just want to fix one thing at a time. You hit a draw, great. Go on to the next club. This is awesome. You can figure out how you're able to accomplish this result and make sure you can do it with all your clubs. Wow, a straight ball. One of the toughest shots to hit in all of golf. Congratulations are in order. This is one of the preferred ball flights. This is what you're trying to accomplish. If you can do this consistently throughout your club set, you're going to become a pretty good golfer. A lot of golfers decide they need to learn how to hit draws and fades, and you can do that. Continue on with the process, hitting the occasional draw, the occasional fade when you need it. But in reality, most amateur golfers will do really, really well sticking with a straight ball flight. If you look at what happens, the square ball flight or the straight ball flight, if you look at the chart on the right, is your feet, the face of the club, and the path are all lined up in the same direction. The closed stance will produce a draw. The open stance should produce a fade. Those are much harder to control. Hit the square ball, hit the straight ball, and you'll play better golf. So you're consistently hitting a fade. That means the ball starts to the left of targets and turns back to the target. That too is one of the preferred ball flights. The advantage of the fade is it tends to stop a little quicker than the draw, and it's easy to shape shots in and around bunkers and trees if you can learn how to do this. If you are hitting a fade, really take a look at your video to understand how you're able to accomplish this result on a regular basis. If you're able to do it regularly and consistently, move on to hitting draws, and then finally straight shots. Stick with it though. The fade is a good ball to play. I think Arnold Palmer and Jack Nicklaus were proponents of the fade. I believe it's true that Jack Nicklaus, the only year he didn't win a tournament when he was in his prime was the year his back didn't allow him to hit a fade. Play the fade. You can talk to a fade. You can only yell at a draw. All right, now we're down to the push hook. One of the worst shots you can do in golf. That's when you push the ball off to the right and then it hooks hard back to the left. Can't really talk to that shot. You don't know where it's going to end up, generally in the woods or off to the left. Let's look at what causes that. The push hook is caused because the swing path is to the right while the club face is to the left. If you're doing that, if you see that happening, recheck your alignment. Feet, knees, hips, and shoulders all need to be set up parallel to the swing path or the intended swing path. Also check your club face position at setup. One of the easiest ways to do that is just to stand straight up and point the club out in front of you. Chances are the club's going to look a little closed. With the modern iron and the heads are so big, it's really hard sometimes to get the face pointing in the right direction. I believe you should aim the bottom of the club on the direction you want the ball to go and then line up to the club rather than lining up to the target line. You're lining up parallel to the target line and perpendicular to the club. That isn't always easy to do. If you're hooking it, chances are you're hanging back a little bit, so you want to turn the chest to the target a little earlier in the downswing. The draw is caused by keeping your back to the target longer. Slightly open your stance to the target line. Again, you want to align more to the left if you're hitting it left. Also look at your hands. Make sure they're turned in the right direction. Move the ball a little further forward. That changes the path a bit. Check on that. Again, using video and your alignment aids, make sure you know where the ball is with every swing. You can also move the trail foot slightly towards the golf ball. Now, if you're standing too far away or too close to the ball, that also can affect the path of the swing, so check that out. Use something like the TA-144 training aid, which makes sure your hands are hanging correctly down from the chin. Make sure your spine angle is correct at setup, both the forward tilt and the side tilt. Oftentimes the shoulders are opening up too early, which means the club is left behind you a little bit. Oftentimes that can cause the pull hook or even the pull slice or the push slice. So a lot of things happen with your shoulder line. Make sure the belt line turns before the shoulders. We go back on our backswing, shoulders first, but on the forward swing, it's knees, thighs, and hips first. You're probably also over rotating the forearms. We don't need to flip the club over like a lot of us believe in. The hands automatically should return to square at impact if they're square at setup. If your trail elbow points up or not at the ground, also called a flying elbow, you're going to find that you have a tendency to flip the club. Flipping the hands can also call the hook. Now, the flipping of the hands means the right hand is going under the left hand, or the trail hand is going under the left hand, buckling the left hand. It's not a flip if your right hand is passing high into the outside. That's the natural rollover. So looking at your video, make sure that's what's going on, and then you'll be in a better position. The push. Ball goes straight to the right of the target and generally looks for water, as we can see there. The club face and the path are both to the right. Remember, path creates curve, face creates initial direction. So if both the path is to the right and the face is to the right, the net effect is a straight path relative to the face of the club. So make sure you're making the alignment a little bit more left than you were before. The ball could be too far back, which means you're coming at it too much from the inside. You possibly could be standing too far away from the ball. So again, look at your video, make sure that your spine's in the right place, that your shoulders are over the knees, forward of the knees, and your hands are hanging freely. If you're pushing it, chances are you're leaving your back to the target too long. Make sure you get your chest turning to the target. Flying left elbow can do that. If your left elbow is up in the air, you're not able to rotate your hands through impact correctly. As a matter of fact, you get blocked. Also check the position of your left hand. If the ball is going to the right, turn the logo on your glove hand a little to the right. That's your dialing in hand. That'll also work on the previous slide on the push hook and the pull hooks. Make sure you understand that your left hand is your guiding hand, your right hand is along for the ride. Swaying also can cause you to push the ball, because what's going to happen is you're going to get in front of the ball, which then technically moves the ball further back in your stance, and you're going to be in a position where you end up pushing or slicing the ball. And make sure the club face is square to the intended path of not the swing, but of the golf ball. If the face is to the right of your intended flight, ball's going to go to the right. So just make sure your club face is slightly closed or closing through impact. The push slice is really awful. That's a short shot, it doesn't go anywhere. It's hit into right field. Better yet, it's hitting into foul territory off right field. It's the amateur shot. You see it all the time. It doesn't go anywhere except maybe to the water. Again, check your club path using your video or any training aid you may have, and make sure the club path is not out to in. That means you're cutting across it. What really happens on the push slice, believe it or not, is the path is strong to the left of target, but the face is to the right. So the ball starts kind of sliding right away off the face of the club, and you're blocking the shot out to the right. Keep the back to the target as long as possible on the downswing. Strengthen your grip. By that I mean turning that left hand a little bit more towards the right. Make sure you've maintained your spine angle. Use whatever help you can have. Having a friend put a club on your lead shoulder or up against the ear of your lead ear will help you know that you're keeping your spine tilt forward. And make sure you return the club from under the swing plane. My grandfather used to talk about swinging under the table. You want to make sure that club goes underneath the table and you're not slamming it into the top of the table. Again, your left elbow can be a real problem here. If it points skyward through and after impact, you're going to have problems controlling the direction. Make sure the elbow stays down. There's a device you can use where the elbows are kind of pinned together a little bit to help you maintain the structure of your setup. where the elbows are a certain distance apart, maintain that distance. I've seen tour pros practice with a tennis ball between their wrists, making sure that that stays in relationship. Again, the ball could be a little too far forward, so the club is starting a little bit to the right, to the left, and the ball is going to go to the right. Make sure your shoulders are not open at setup. A lot of times when we drop the right hand in, it ends up opening the shoulders. So the shoulders are well to the left of the target line at impact. Make sure they're to the right of the target a little bit if you want to get rid of that push slice. Your backswing could be too flat. You're taking the club around too low on the backswing, not getting it up over your shoulder. If it's too low, your tendency is going to come over the top, chop down on it like you're hitting an axe. Really double check that the shaft on the backswing is parallel to the ground, it's over the toes, and it's parallel to the target line on your backswing. If it's inside the target line, if the face is swung open, if it's inside your toes, you're swinging it too far back to the inside. Remember, your downswing begins by dropping the hands down in front of the right hip. If the hands start by flying out to the golf ball, you're over the top. The resistance to that is to make sure we don't try to hit at the ball, that we're focusing on the correct movement, which is down and around, not out. You want to feel a slight shift of the lead hip towards the target when you initiate your downswing. Now the target is a little to your right, so the initial shift should be a shift of the left hip a little to the right or to the target line on your downswing. And make sure your right elbow gets in front of the trail hip on your through swing. If it's not in front of the trail hip on the through swing, you're going to have a tendency to leave the club face wide open. Random results. Terrible, terrible, terrible. You can't get successful at anything with random results. Think about what you're doing, slow it way down, and start over. Begin with a slower swing. Most of us very rarely hit the ball crazily offline with a putt, because that's our slowest swing. You're going to have to start over. And if this happens 2 times, you're going to have to get professional help, qualified instructions, and check your club fitting. That could have a lot to do with it. Well, you've just completed step 2. Hopefully you're getting good direction. And now it's time to start working on gaining some distance and distance control. Remember, distance is the least important with the driver, most important with the putter and the wedges. It's important that we hit the ball not far, but just far enough. It's creating a swing that allows us to produce correct distance. Shorter the shot, the more important distance is. We find that most amateurs miss their short shots more long and short than they ever will left and right. Chipping, pitching, anything inside of about 125 yards is a really difficult shot, but really focus on your distance more than on your direction. You want to build a predictable distance gap between your clubs. They're designed to be about 10 or 12 yards apart, half an inch of length of shaft, 4 degrees generally for the clubs. Now some manufacturers may go 4.5 or even 5 degrees between clubs and may go a lesser gap on the longer irons. That's so they can still maintain the gap of about 10 to 12 yards. You want to know that distance. Also, make distance your friend. Don't play a golf course that's too long for you. A good way to judge how far you should play is take your 5-iron distance, multiply that times 36. So if you hit your 5-iron 160 yards, 36 times that is a 5,760 yard course for you. You want to be able to reach the green in 2. If you can reach the green in 2 or in par, 3 on a par 5, 1 on a par 3, you can do that if you're able to play your 5-iron 160 yards at a 5,760 yard course. So again, when you're working on distance, the first thing you want to find is not how far can I hit it, but how far do I hit it with that swing that's allowing me to hit that preferred shot, the straight shot, the draw, or the small fade. you're going to master distance, you really have to know what your shot table is. Start and chart your 3 swings: the half swing, the 3/4 swing, and the full swing. Know exactly how far you hit each club with each of those swings. In the scoring game, distance means you learn how to chip, you learn how to pitch, and you learn how to lob with a variety of different clubs. The lob wedge is called the lob wedge not because it's the right club to lob with, but that's just the name that got stuck to it. Um, I have students that can lob with a 7-iron, but you want to control your distance first. Only after mastering your distance table can you decide you want to gain a little extra. And ask yourself why that's important to you. Now, certainly gaining distance off the tee can be important because it can reduce the length of your second shot to the green or your approach shot. But reality is, if you can hit a nice, smooth 5-iron, 7-iron, 9-iron to a predictable distance, you can play good golf. Golf was described by my grandfather as learning how to jump from stone to stone to stone to get across the creek. If the stones are 2.5 feet apart, it doesn't help you to jump 3 feet. You got to be able to jump 2.5. Okay, you got your swing table. Using the same 5-swing process you use throughout the direction process of this thing, you want to note the flight distance, not the roll, the carry distance of each club for a full swing. Write it down. You may want to throw out the really long ones, throw out the really short ones, the misses, and try to find out exactly how far you're carrying the ball. A radar unit is good for this, or another kind of device, or a qualified observer. Now, I've watched a lot of golf swings. It's hard for me to tell where the ball's landing from behind the golfer. What I'll do when I'm working with a golfer to build their swing table is I'll go out on the range to the right or left of their target and try to see if I can see where the ball is landing and note that down. What I'm looking for is a good, consistent spacing between the clubs. 10 yards is perfect. Hybrids and lofted woods tend to get a little longer than the same club would if it was an iron. For instance, a 5 hybrid is probably going to go a little further than a 5 iron. So double check that, make sure you don't have any misses in your gaps. Nothing worse than having a 160-yard shot but no 160-yard club. I don't mind being between clubs if I'm between the 5 and the 7, then I can pick the 6. Always the true carry. Start your distance control with a 7-iron. If you know your distance control with a 7-iron, generally you can guess what the rest of them are going to be. And if they're not, then you got to make some adjustments. Sometimes the adjustment's in the club, sometimes it's in your swing. Remember, your job is to swing the rubber end of the club, the end with the grip on it. Those all should be the same swing with your irons, the same rhythm, the same tempo. The result in distance is designed by the club manufacturer, not by you. Simply because you have a 5-iron in your hand doesn't mean you have to swing harder or faster in order to get the distance. The 5-iron will produce more distance than the 7-iron with exactly the same swing. Looking here, you'll see some typical distances men, women get in their drivers. Depending, you probably fall in one of these categories. If you're a 200-yard driver, you probably get 180 out of your 3-wood, 170, and then we start the 10-yard gap going down the line. You want to know what those numbers are. If you're not a long hitter, start with what you see the men doing or the women and play that table and then gradually build your own. I like to build my swing table not just on the range, but also on the golf course. When I hit a nice 5-iron, I'd like to see how far it went. Generally, it's not as far as I think it went. So be honest with those. Use a little chart like we have on the left to build your swing table. I think the half swing is maybe the most important shot in all of golf. It's your scoring shot. It's help you get out of trouble. When your backswing is limited by a tree or other impediment, you can use it. And you also use it for maximum control. In the wind, the half swing is a great swing. Remember the old phrase, swing easy when it's breezy. Well, the half swing is the easier swing. It's a very compact, very simple swing, less movement, less rotation. From the half swing position, the arms get very passive on the forward swing. Your turn, your hip rotation is going to power the swing. The hands really from about waist high don't move independent of the body. The arms don't move independent of the body. The body moves the arms. You really want to learn how to do that. In the short shot, the handle leads the swing. The club head is the last thing that gets moving. I know they're all connected, but the feeling is I'm going to let the club head lag behind. I'm going to have a soft grip, relax forearms, and make my rotation of my body, my hips, my chest, my shoulders to the target. And I want to finish in a position that feels like I can reach out and pull the pin out of the hole. Use a lot of different clubs to get this feeling of what my flight and my roll is with these different clubs. Here is where roll comes into play. You've got to understand that if you're doing a half swing onto the green with a 5-iron, you're probably not going to land it on the green. The ball will roll off the back. 7-iron, maybe you can land it on the front of the green, go to the back. Here's where you're going to learn some of the fundamentals in golf. Pin in the back, going with a lower lofted club. Pin in the front, going with a higher lofted club. Understand how to land the ball and let it roll, let it release up. If you throw the ball into the bank in front of the green, it's probably not going to bounce. It's probably going to stop right there, no matter what club you're using. So work those shots. Some golf courses are going to have some nice banks that you can work on the range. Others are going to have a flat range. So you may have to do a lot of this work going out in the late afternoon on the golf course and hitting several balls, making sure you stay out of the way of golfers coming up behind you. The 3/4 swing, now that I'm old or older, I think the 3/4 swing is my long swing. That's what it feels like to me. The 3/4 swing can hit the ball a long ways. You don't always have to crank around behind. And we see a lot of people when they try to do a full swing, what they're really doing is a 3/4 swing with a breakdown in the elbows. Use your 3/4 swing as a rescue shot or as a control shot in adverse conditions. It's a long pitch. It allows versatility inside of 150 yards. Don't feel like when you're at 150 yards or 100 yards, you have to use your 100-yard club. I work with students all the time to get them to learn how to take a 7-iron from 25 yards to 150 and be accurate on all of them. I remember Jack Nicklaus saying at a clinic one time that the difference between him and Arnie and everybody else is that he and Arnie could hit a 7-iron online at 100 yards or 150, it didn't matter. And I think that's really important. Also, when you're working on the 3/4 swing, it's easy to work on your tempo. It's got to feel the same as a full swing because what you're trying to do is feel that pendulum motion. Pendulum, as it's shortening its stroke, doesn't shorten its speed. It still goes through at the same time. The device is just moving slower. So the feeling is that you're generating the same amount of momentum through. On the 3/4 swing and again the half swing, the finish should match the length of the backswing. If your forward swing gets to be too big, that tells you you're forcing the club through the impact zone. That's not using the true momentum of the pendulum swing. Use the 5-wing swing rule and get started working with building your swing table with your 3/4 swing. Start with your shorter clubs because those are the ones you're probably going to need it with most, and those are probably the ones you're going to have the most advantage with. Now the full swing, the grip it and rip it. Actually, I'd rather you not do that. The only one that you should maybe give it 100% once in a while is your driver. The rest of the club should be 70 to 80%. I have a saying in my schools that if you strike 80% of your shots, 80% well, you're going to have a good round of golf. Most of us can hit the ball better with an easier swing. So what we want to do is we want to create good, solid shots that create from a good, solid movement. Use the swing process we created during the contact and direction phases, hitting 5 solid shots. Use alignment tools, make sure you're going in the right direction. Always use face tape or a spray to make sure you're hitting the ball solid. And use an observer or video to ensure that you're using a quality swing as you're working on your full swing. You'll notice right away in your video, or your observer will notice, if you're losing balance, if you're losing tempo, if you're rushing it, if you're falling back off the shot. if you're not able to move through and finish nicely. Your video of your practice swing should really match your full swing. We always say that nobody ever said, "What the heck was that?" after a practice swing. Once you've recorded your distances for 5 quality long swings, change clubs and go back to step 1 and do the whole thing over again. Make sure you got plenty of time. Don't be in a rush. Don't try to do your entire bag in one setting. If you think about it, that's going to be a lot of swings just to generate a swing table for 13 different clubs. As you play, update your swing table with real world stats. How far are you really hitting it? Some golfers actually hit the ball further on the course than they do on the range, while others have just the opposite. They're more relaxed on the range, therefore they can hit it further. You won't know what that is for you until you start charting it. The modern GPS equipment, lasers, all that kind of stuff can help you determine exactly how far you hit the ball. Now let's talk about the scoring game, phase 2 of distance. The only real place I think you can lower your score for the amateur golfer is the scoring game. Chips, pitches, and putts. If you look at your scorecard, on a typical par 72 course, you're going to have 18 shots off the tee. Chances are you can't do fewer than that. You can skip a hole, but that doesn't really count. So you're going to have 18 tee shots. You're going to have probably 14 second shots that are either approach shots or second shots on a par 5, and you're going to have 14 approach shots. Nothing you can do about that. That's half your game right there. There's 36 shots. The other half of the game was intended to be putts. Well, we don't hit the green that often. Most amateurs maybe hit 2 or 3 greens in a round. I've played a decent round of golf where I scored pretty well in the low 70s, where I didn't hit any greens in regulation, but I chipped and putted well. So really take a look at where you can most likely reduce your score. I worked with a student for a year whose goal was to hit fairways. He honestly believed that if he could hit every fairway, his score would go down. Well, after about 18 months, he was hitting every fairway. His score hadn't improved at all. As a matter of fact, it had gotten worse, because now instead of also working on his short game, all he wanted to do was hit fairway, hit fairway, hit fairway. And when we started tracking his short game, you would find out that he had multiple 3-putts, multiple double chips, and most of his pitches were also missing the green. So he may shoot 18 shots onto the fairways and 70 shots around the greens. Not a good way to score. Approach your scoring game improvement process exactly like the full swing process. You got to do contact first, direction second, distance last. Build that up. You're not trying to hit it far, you're trying to hit it far enough. Really work on that part of the game. Go to a quiet place on the range where maybe you can step out some distances, 10, 15, 20, 25 yards. Those generally aren't laid out on the range. And work on that. Use a towel to know where you're going to land the ball. Work on owning the shot. That's going to help you lower your score. When learning, you're going to learn 4 shots. The pitch, which really is the same as the half swing. The chip, which is a swing we haven't talked about. The lob, I call that the curry swing because it's a full swing with a lofted club. And by a lofted, I mean it could be a 7-iron turned way open, which makes it a lofted. And then the putt, that's the frustrating swing. You know, a 3-inch putt counts the same as a 300-yard drive. That drives a lot of golfers off the game because it's just not as much fun, and it can be very, very frustrating. So let's get started here on the short. The pitch, the half swing. It's compact, it's small. We don't have a big wide stance. We're not trying for power. We're trying for perfect contact. That beautiful little sound that the ball gets snicked off the ground. We're not trying to take a big divot because we're not swinging fast enough to plow through the ground. The purpose of the pitch is to get the ball on the green, leaving the easiest possible putt. It's not necessarily to put the ball in the hole. That's just a happy accident. The more you practice, the more of those happy accidents you will have. Knowing how to determine the spot it's going to land is all about learning how to read a green. Now, that's a book in and all of itself, but you do want to have an idea of where the ball is going to go after it lands. For me, the easiest way to do that is picture a heavy rainfall. Generally, most greens don't get puddles. The water runs somewhere. Picture where the water's going to roll to, and that's where the ball's going to roll. Club selection is based on the swing table you created earlier in your half swings, adding together the roll now, because you're going to be landing on a surface that's relatively smooth and relatively fast, that will still have angles to it, slopes. Track your results for various distances. The results I generally track is the number of putts after I've chipped or pitched. If I get mostly one putts, my pitching is pretty good. If I got two putts or more, I'm not doing very good. I grade each shot on an A to F scale. I may have an F shot that produces an A result, but it's still an F shot. I still sculled it. It just happened to stop at the right place. After I've done my practices on the practice green, I'm going to use my real world tracking on the golf course and try to update my numbers on a continuous basis. One of the easiest ways to do that is to put a little dot on your scorecard on the left of the box on all your chips and pitches, and a little dot on the right for all your putts, and at the end of the round count those up. Only way to be under par is to have your pitches, chips, lobs, sand shots, putts to be under 36. Pretty tough to do. All right, the chip, I guess, is really a putt with a lofted club. You're not hitting it very far. You'll see a lot of golfers use their chip or pitching stroke. I prefer to feel like it's more of a putting stroke. I create my triangle like the picture here on the right, and I try to putt to a landing zone, so I turn that ball into a putted ball as soon as possible. Some golfers even set their hands in the putting grip style that they use, so they're doing something different. Looking at the little photograph here on the right, you'll see there isn't a whole lot of wrist action. The chip is kind of a hit and hold shot. We're not going to roll the club over for most of them unless we need more roll. It's powered by rocking the shoulders, much like the putt. It requires lots and lots of practice. On my website, you'll see a formula that'll help you understand how far the ball is going to roll after it lands with each club. So what you're going to practice when you chip is practice to a landing zone. I like to get the ball on the putting surface rolling as soon as I can. There seems to be less variables on the green than there is in the air with the wind and everything else. Plus, I'm not trying to hit it a far distance. A chip may only be 2 or 3 feet of carry, and the rest is all roll. Learn how to chip with all your clubs. Yes, all of them, from your putter all the way to the driver. You never know when you may have the need for that particular shot. It's a science. Approach it like a scientist. Have a theory. This is what's going to happen. Check the theory. Does it really work? Remember, the carry is your responsibility. How far does the ball fly? The science determines the roll. The 5-iron is going to roll more than the 7. The 7 will roll more than the 9. If the carry is 2 yards and the roll is 10 yards, the club should be a 7-iron. It's simple math. Roll 10 divided by carry 2 equals 5. 12 minus 5 is the 7, hence the 7. Try this little process. It actually works. Use the 5-swing rule again. Do your practice swings. Hit the ball. Use 5 balls in the same spot, trying to achieve the same result. Try to find out what it is you're good at. And again, you track your results by the number of 1 putts or less. Obviously, a better putter becomes a better chipper because he can sink more 6-footers than the bad putter. The lob shot, the courage shot, a full swing that may be only 10 yards long. It goes high, flies high, lands soft, rolls very little. The lob may be a 7-iron cut lob over a tree, or it may be a lob shot over a bunker or over a creek to a tight pin. It really resembles the greenside bunker in that you're kind of exploding through under the ground under the ball. You're not really trying to hit the ball. You're actually trying to slide the back of the club on the ground under the ball. You're not looking for contact. You're not looking to compress the ball or trap the ball, but you're really looking to slide. the club under the ball again. Picture holding a ping pong paddle in your right hand and try to cut the ping pong ball so it goes just barely over the net and will stop or spin back. Um, really practice it with some freedom. Don't practice it with people on the other side of the green because you're liable to hit them. I've often seen somebody swinging as hard as they can with a lob wedge and hit the ball 10 yards. On the other hand, hit it in the center of the forehead of the ball and it's liable to go 140 yards. That's why it's a risk reward shot. Use it only when you need to. Make sure the risk is worth the reward. Chances are it won't be. Look for other chances. You may even discover you can chip through a bunker rather than having to lob it over. I would really suggest you get someone who's really good at this shot to show you how to do it. Watch lots of videos. Work on being smooth and relaxed. And if you can, try to avoid putting yourself in the position you needed that lob shot to begin with. Um, uh, don't necessarily choose a lob shot because the pin is stuck in behind the green. If you can get to the green some other way, I mean behind the bunker, if you can get to the green some other way, go that other direction. You may discover a chip out and a chip on is safer, easier, and more likely to lower your score than the bladed lob or the chunk lob into the bunker will have done. Again, when you're out playing, use your real world results. Ask yourself, how well did I do on my lob shots? You may go 2 or 3 rounds without ever hitting one. If you find yourself hitting more than 1 or 2 lob shots a round, ask yourself, why am I putting myself in that position to begin with? All right, now here we go to the putt. Easiest shot in golf, most frustrating shot in golf. Put it in the hole, baby, is all you want to do. 20-footer seems like it should be as easy to make as a 2-footer, but it really isn't. 6-inch putts counts the same as a 250-yard drive on the scorecard. And a rule is the putt that doesn't reach the hole will never go in. There's been a lot of research into that, and it's been proven over and over again. Can't go in the hole if it doesn't reach the hole. So here's where we change things up a little bit. When you're putting, the first thing you practice is distance. Not how far can I putt it, but can I putt it the correct distance. Most of us, again, are going to miss long and short more than we ever will left and right. So go to the middle of the practice green, roll the ball to the edges of the green. You can't miss because it's totally around you. It surrounds you all the way up. Learn how to hit it in all directions, and roll it till it stops on the edge of the green. You'll see uphills, downhills, with the grain, against the grain, long putts, short putts. The distance is the key. If you can always roll the ball a couple inches past to within a circle of about 3 feet or a half circle of 3 feet, you're going to lower your score, especially because some of those will even go in and you'll walk off with a 1 putt. All putts are straight putts. You hit the ball straight. The ground and gravity curves the ball. So don't try to hit curves. You've got to think about hitting a straight ball and then letting physics take over. It's a little fatalism in that. Once you've hit the shot, now it's up to the laws of physics. The putt's in God's hand at this point. Nothing you can do about it. You do want to learn how to anticipate the direction the ball's going to move, but you still got to count on physics to work. You may discover a putt in one direction breaks more than a putt in another direction on the same hill. That's because of the vagaries of the green, footsteps, ball marks. All those things can have an influence. So learn how to hit it straight. Begin your target practice on a level area of the green at a target about 3 feet away. In other words, a hole 3 feet away. Going back to our 5 ball rule, use 5 balls, put them into the target, repeat 5 more times. With 1 miss, start over. I like to take the 5 balls and circle the hole with them so that I'm not putting from the same spot every time. Don't quit practicing your 3-footers until you can consistently hole out 25 putts in a row without a miss. There's no point in going to the 10-footer. You've already worked on your distance control. A 3-foot putt and a 10-foot putt both have to go through that same 3-inch hole on the way to the hole. So really work hard on that. Use gates like two tees set up slightly smaller than a hole. Move out to 9 feet. Now and repeat the drill. Notice I didn't say 6 feet. 6 feet's frustrating because you think you ought to make those all, you probably aren't gonna. But move out to 9 feet and try to get 2 out of 5 misses. So you're gonna make 3 out of 5. Now move to 18 and repeat the drill. Here at 18, I don't expect to make any of them. If they fall in, it's wonderful, happy mistake. But I do want to get everyone 18 inches past the hole, or I'm going to start over. Now 18 feet's a long distance. That's probably the distance you're going to have if you're pitching onto the green or reaching the green in regulation. You're going to be 18 feet or longer. That's an important practice. Outside 18 feet, you're just going to practice distance over and over and over again. Practice never ends with putting. Get a feel for it. I like to use an entirely different grip when I putt than when I hold the regular clubs. I don't want to see any wrist movement. I want to really be right hand dominant, not left hand dominant. I want to change things up on the putting green. Don't always practice looking at the ball. Sometimes practice looking at the hole. Once you get lined up, go from the ball, look at the hole, execute your putt. Practice with your eyes closed, get a feel for what's going on. Try to get in the habit of hearing the ball fall in the hole. Don't look. There's a drill I use with my students called the quiet eye drill, where you stare so hard at the ball that after you've hit it, there's still a shadow or an image of that ball where you're looking straight down where the ball was. If you move your eyes at all, you're going to lose that focus. The putter has the smallest sweet spot in all of golf. A lot of people say it's the end of a tee. It is the end, but it's the pointy end. That's how small it is. Really work on getting good, consistent strokes out of it. With putting, we want to roll the ball to the hole, not hit the ball to the hole. There's a putting device called balls of steel, a very heavy ball made out of rubber. If you hit it, the ball won't go anywhere, but if you can roll it, get that sense of coming up through the ball a little bit with the putter head, it'll roll nicely to the hole. Find lots of different ways to practice, and make sure that you've got somebody helping you to make sure that before you practice your stroke, you're actually aiming the face of the club at the hole. Very important. Sounds obvious, doesn't it? All right, long drive. This is an appendix. Hitting the ball further begins with yourself. You've got to improve your body, its ability to perform the task required for a full and powerful swing. I've got students that swing with all they have and hit the ball about 230, 235 carry. And yet you see pros out there with the same mechanical swing hitting the ball 300 yards carry, sometimes even more. Their bodies are different than the amateur's body. They have greater torque. They have longer turn. They have more flexibility, more twitch muscle speed than the average golfer. If you really want to increase your distance, the correct way to do it is to improve the efficiency of your body. You got to improve everything about your body. Use a professional trainer to help you become better physically at achieving the goal of hitting the ball further. And again, we're not going to use the word harder. We want to generate higher club head speed, have more efficient contact, and hit the ball farther. A couple of things you can do to increase distance and to maximize club head speed is to make sure the club is the right club for you. Make sure the shaft is the right flex, the right length. Use a fitter. A good fitter is going to measure things like how much the ball spins off the club face, or what the launch angle is, what your attack angle is of the club, what's happening, ball spin, all that stuff is important. A professional can let you maintain your current swing, make some minor adjustments to you and your club, and to maximize those numbers. I've had students that didn't increase their swing speed at all, but were able to increase their distance 10 or 15% just because they were hitting a more efficient swing. One of the things you can work on is maximizing club lag, which is the club head lagging behind the hands for as long as possible. At impact, The hand should be past the golf ball and in front of the club head. Using your video, you'll notice whether or not that's happening. My student that's hitting the ball about 235 right now still has an early release. I'm confident that we can get his distance to 250 by just delaying the impact a little longer, so that he's not swinging the head of the club but just moving the handle past the ball. Again, distance is the last thing you need to be working on. I golfed with a man for a long time. We call him down the middle, chipping a putt, walk away with a par, and that's what he did. I could outdrive him by 100 yards, but he would outscore me. All right, I've got some things coming up soon. I hope you enjoyed the little mini book. We're going to see how this works out. If you like it, we'll do more. If you don't, I'm not going to do any more.